Hello, it's great to be back. I'm Martin Cross. This is Crossy's Corner, and today with me I have an amazing sportswoman, Becky Wilde. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Martin.
Now, I think everybody that watched the Olympics was enthralled by the racing and some of the sort of surprises that that contest turned up. But I guess one of the biggest surprises, or was your bronze medal, Becky.
Yeah, I think we surprised quite a few people.
Yeah, I think we can get into that. But just tell us how your time has been since the games.
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy, to be honest. Came back home, initially back to Somerset, spent some time here with my family, went to the homecoming in Manchester, and then I've just been seeing friends who I haven't seen in a long time. Went to Portugal with some uni friends last week, and then home this week visiting schools and stuff. And then I'll head back to go to Bath for a few days and then head back to Henley after that.
Have you done any celebrity stuff?
I don't think since I've come back, other than just local TV and stuff, and just local school visits. I wouldn't say it's like celebrity stuff, just small things.
Yeah, and so you've got quite a few schools that are asking for you to come and talk to them by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I think it's quite unusual for Taunton and Somerset to have an Olympian, Taunton especially. So yeah, I'll go back to my own school, Queen's College next week, and then got a few primary schools and secondary schools in the area. Yeah, I'm just trying to inspire kids to just stay active and stay involved in sport, really.
That's a great message. Now I know that you're committed, or you have dual nationality. You're both Welsh and English in that sense, and you're very committed Welsh woman.
Yeah.
So how does Wales come in if someone's sort of from Taunton?
Yeah. Well, my mum's side of the family is Welsh, so my mum's Welsh, and we were brought up to support the Welsh rugby team, much to my dad's disappointment. Yeah, that was kind of a big thing, from my grandparents, my mum, and always would go on holidays just to Wales and stuff. And it was always the dream when I was growing up to compete for Wales, just because that side of the family means a lot to me. And having been a swimmer, the Commonwealth Games is obviously a big part of swimming. So yeah, that was always a goal of mine to compete for Wales.
Okay, so we can talk a lot about that. Let's maybe have a look at this Olympic journey. And if I was to ask you about it, where would you say it began?
Oh, my Olympic journey. To be honest, I have dreamed of going to the Olympics since I was 6. I remember watching Athens and watching Kelly Holmes and being absolutely amazed by it all. And I wanted to be an Olympian from that point. I've got photos of me dressing up for school as Paula Radcliffe. Yeah, I was just obsessed with sport. And then quickly swimming became my thing. Loved being on the water and stuff. So I remember 2008, I was absolutely enthralled by Michael Phelps, Rebecca Adlington. So that was always the goal, just to go to the Olympics, be an Olympian. And it was in swimming. And then eventually kind of overtrained a lot in that sport, got really ill and fell out of love with it. And then that's when I switched to rowing when I was at the end of my first year in uni. And the Olympic dream kind of still continued. It was just in a different sport.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was interested by what you said in terms of the swimming and overtrained and fell out of love with it. What can you say about that?
Yeah, so I swam for 10 years at high level. I just missed out on the Commonwealth Games when I was 16 by one place.
Wow.
And that was it was a big moment, I think, for a 16-year-old. I was in the midst of my GCSEs trying to qualify, balancing a lot of things. And I think that kind of hit me hard. But the following season, tried to bounce back from that disappointment. And I think being young, I just threw myself into it too much. Was too obsessed with training and stuff and getting faster and faster and not thinking too much about recovery. So kind of that was the first time I overtrained. And then I managed to pull myself out of that hole for a little bit, A-level year. But then by the time A-levels came around, I was back in a bit of a state. And I just wasn't like looking after myself properly recovery wise. And then when I went to uni, the goal was 2018 Commonwealths, because that I was always going to like try and finish there and then maybe try rowing. But got to uni and the same thing was happening. I just wasn't in a good space. And I think I'd had so many disappointments. Like I was training so hard, but wasn't seeing the results. Obviously, I just wasn't recovered enough. So I just fell out of love with the sport. And I'd always said, like, if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to keep doing it. And I'd always wanted to try rowing. So eventually, enough was enough.
I guess it must have been tough for your parents, obviously, both being sports teachers, to see you know, things not turning out the way you want. And I guess maybe your coaches. I was thinking as you were talking, well, you know, Becky must have had coaches that were saying, you know, you need to recover properly, or was it just you? Or
no, like I was definitely when I was growing up supported by my coach. Like we'd gone through a lot together. Like, I think he was my coach for 8 years or whatever, so he'd seen me growing up. But I think there was a lot probably that I didn't tell him going on behind the scenes, like recovery and fueling wise. A lot of lessons that I then had to learn from. And I think that was very much on me to a point. And then at uni it probably was a little bit different. I think getting up at 5 a.m. 6 days a week wasn't healthy, but that wasn't my choice. I think at uni there was other factors, but
So is there any sense in which those experiences have gone on to help you when you switched across to rowing?
Oh, definitely. Like I would not be here without swimming. Like swimming taught me so much. Like I went through so much when I was a swimmer, learned so many lessons, like learned how to work hard and push myself to the absolute limit, but then also learned from those lessons recovery wise and stuff. And I feel lucky in some respect that I got a second chance almost. I got to turn over a new leaf, and I was a completely different athlete as soon as I switched to rowing. Like it was literally days between the sports, but I was completely different because I got that opportunity to start again almost, but then also learn from everything. So I definitely would not be here without all those experiences.
Well, I'm sure there were more than two people at the Paris Olympics that started off swimming and switched to rowing. But at the moment, I can think of you and Ollie Zeidler.
Yeah.
Did you compare notes at all?
I did. Briefly. He actually swam with one of my friends who I went on holiday with last week, actually. She's German as well. So, there's a small link there.
Oh, wow. Now, I guess because you're a tall woman, that rowing, you know, might be a sport. I know in Romania they go to look for tall women when they're 13 or 14 in schools, generally in the northeast of Romania.
Okay.
But what was attracting you to rowing?
So I think the first time rowing really struck me was 2012. I can remember some races in Beijing, but 2012 definitely. Like, I remember Catherine and Anna winning, and then Helen and Heather, obviously. And I remember listening to interviews afterwards and hearing about the START program and hearing how Helen and Heather had like started relatively recently because they were tall and stuff and kind of been through that system. So I remember thinking then, oh, that's something I'd like to try. But at the time was very much still invested in swimming, wanted to get as far as I could in it. But it was kind of my backup plan. And my PE teacher always said to me, like, you should try rowing. Like, you're tall, you're strong, you're fit, try it. Yeah. And I was always like, yeah, I will, but I want to finish with swimming first. So it was kind of in the back of my mind when I chose Bath as a uni, because one of the START centres was there at the time. So 2012 definitely, I think, started it for me.
Becky, I'm just wondering, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Do you think that's your microphone? Maybe.
Can you hear me now?
What I would suggest.
Can you hear me now?
No. What I would suggest is you go. Yeah, try that, or maybe go out and come back in again. Oh, someone else can hear us both. Thank you, Matthew. The only thing is, I need to be able to hear you. So why don't you try going back out and coming back in again? Boo, 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 boo. Okay, how's that? All right. So let me try audio. Say something now, Becky. Can you say something? Oh dear. Da da da. I'll try and go out and come in again. How's that? Can you hear me? You can hear me. I can't hear you. Right. I'm sorry about this. MacBook Pro microphone, MacBook Pro speakers. So if I come off of that, can you hear me now? Yeah, I can't hear you. That's so frustrating. Is there anything you can do at your end to play with your? We're here for both. Audio. Much better. Oh, say that again.
Can you hear me?
I can hear that.
On my phone.
Oh wow.
I don't know what happened there.
That's so cool you managed to do that, and that's very quick thinking as well. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm on a different microphone as well, but yeah. So yeah, if you've just tuned in, and we had some sound issues which look like they're resolved now, chiefly down to Becky, which is fantastic. So we were talking about why rowing, and you talked about your PE teacher saying that you must try rowing, and you know, having watched 2012. So how easy was it when you got into rowing? I mean, was that fairly straightforward, or did you like fall in a sculling boat or those sorts of things?
Oh yeah, fell in loads. Yeah, luckily I learned in the summer, because I don't think I would have. I don't know if I'd have stuck at it if I kept falling in the winter. But yeah, it was a fairly, I think I picked it up fairly quickly. I can remember someone saying to me when I first started, like, because you're a swimmer and like you've got that feel of the water, you might pick it up a bit quicker than others. I don't know if that's true, but it kind of, yeah, that summer I just kind of went with it, fell in a bit less and less. And I think I just loved the training. Like I just enjoyed everything about it really, and that definitely helped a lot.
So were you identified as like a talented person as at Bath? Were you, you know, sought out as someone who might go through on a talent pathway?
No, I actually just emailed Dan Harris, the start coach. I kind of just found his email, and I'd seen him like around the center. So I just emailed him. Like it was literally just the end of first year, so it was about May, June time, and I asked if I could come test because I'd like looked up the testing and stuff on the website, and then literally I think 2 days later I did the assault bike test, and he did like my height and power and stuff. And then quite literally like the next day I was a rower. So yeah, it was very much me going to him, just being like, please can I try?
So did you all, how much did you have a belief that you were going to make it, or when did that appear to be the case?
It probably sounds, I'm not really like a confident or arrogant person, but I just had this firm belief that I was going to make it and no one was going to stop me. And I didn't know like how long it was going to take. Like I obviously heard about Helen and how quickly like she made it onto Netflix, but I knew even in those first few months, like having gone on start camps and stuff, I knew I was fit enough. It was just like learning a whole new sport and stuff. So I was quite determined that no matter how long it took, I was just going to make it.
Wow. And how old were you at this time, Becky?
I was 19 when I switched sports.
Okay. So I know if we roll on to 21, you had to have surgery.
Yeah.
On your hips, and I was intrigued, like, because that's quite young for a person to have hip surgery, I was thinking, but maybe I've got that wrong.
No, I probably was quite young. I think so. I've been rowing just over a year at that point. And initially, like, it started with back pain, and we couldn't really figure out what was going on. And it wasn't like I was rowing a huge amount either. Like the meters were still very low. So had loads of like scans on my back and stuff, and nothing really emerged. So I kept like trying to train, was told like by physios and stuff, like crack on. And then the pain kind of started getting worse, but it was more in my hips at this point, or my left. Eventually, like months and months later, had that scanned and was told I had a labral tear. And they tried like injecting it, but that didn't thing. So like, the only option was surgery. And at that point, like, I couldn't walk really without being in pain. Like rowing was like far from my mind. I just wanted. And the surgeon said, like, when he like had a look at it and stuff, so it had been caused by extra bit of bone like on the hip joint. So the cam lesion, as what it's called, was then like rubbing through the cartilage, and eventually it had rubbed through, so it was just bone on bone. So I was at risk of death. And he just said that, well, that was there genetically. Like there was no way I could have stopped that happening. And probably through having done sport when I was younger a lot, that probably gradually wore away. It wasn't just rowing just accelerated. And he said it would have happened at any point in my life. Like I think I was just maybe unlucky that happened then, but everything happens for a reason, I guess. And then, so I had my left hip operated on. And I remember, I think the week before my right started niggling me, but I was like, no, like, hey, like it's fine. You're actually making this up now. I mentioned it to the surgeon after he did my left, and he was like, well, it wouldn't be unusual if you had it in your right as well. Like, let's just have a look. And actually that tear in my right hip was worse.
Oh no.
6 weeks after I had my left done, I had my right done. And yeah, I was basically out for a whole season, so I didn't really row for a whole season. And yeah, I guess that was quite early on in my rowing career.
So how does that affect you psychologically?
Yeah, that was really hard, because I felt like I was at a point where I was progressing and like all my teammates and stuff were doing really well. And having like a whole year out when you barely rowed anyway, it was really hard. Like, that's probably the hardest point of my rowing career, because there was months and months where I didn't know what the pain was. I didn't know what was going on. And after the surgery, it's just such a long rehab process. So yeah, just it was tough, but I had some great support. Like Dan Harris was a huge support to me at that point.
Yeah, he sounds like a hero, Dan.
Yeah, he is.
I guess you're coming in 21, 22. When's your first proper race or anything like that?
So I actually somehow kind of recovered quick enough, or like had enough fitness, that I went to European under-23s that summer.
In Greece, was it? Or yeah.
So I think I had my second surgery in March, and then managed to make it to Europe under-23s in September. So that was a huge boost for me. That gave me so much confidence, and that, I guess, that was my first proper race. Like, I think I'd done Henley Women's and stuff the year before. I hadn't done Henley. So that was probably the big one, and that was the end of my under-23 career, because I'm December 31st. So
okay, yeah.
So yeah, I luckily just got an event in before I aged out.
You didn't have the result you wanted there, I'm guessing.
Probably not. No, I guess there was no pressure heading in. We were very inexperienced, Zara and I, and our heat went really well. And then I think got a bit overwhelmed in the final. And yeah, we came fifth, which probably, I would have taken that earlier in the season, having
yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely I left it definitely wanting more.
So were you sat in the stroke seat back then?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so have you always been a stroke person?
No, I've rowed in bow a few times. Like, I rowed the double in 2021. We did Henley Women's, Henley Royal. I was in bow that year. Yeah, I just seem to have ended up in stroke more often than not.
Yeah. So when do you start hitting the big time in terms of, making a move to Leander Club, or when does that sort of big transition occur for you?
So I moved in 2022. So I did the 21-22 season in Bath. And actually I think that was really useful for me, just to have a season. I raced a season in the single. I raced Hollenbecker in it, and was then training a little bit with the senior squad. Initially was meant to do World Cup 3 and a double, but COVID and stuff disrupted the team, so it meant whoever's in the double with me then got moved up, and I just didn't get a race. But that season gave me a lot of confidence. But I think I'd outgrown Bath at that point, definitely. Like, I was ready to move on to a bigger squad, be closer to Caversham. So moved September 2022 to Leander, and then spent the 22-23 season there.
Yeah. What's so cool about Leander? I mean, it's the place that everybody goes to.
I think what was really cool for me is just I think the mix of training. Like, I'd never really trained that much in crew boats before. like I was confident and fine in crew boats, but actually being able to do it all the time, I learned so much, especially that summer. I spent the whole summer in a quad and learned so much from those girls around me. And then I think the coaches as well, like Rich Chambers, he was mainly, and he just gave me so much time and was so like committed to helping me do well. And I think he knew it was closer to Caversham, so I got more exposure to Caversham. He knew what was needed, what I need, like what I needed to give me. So that was huge for me, really.
So it was never you never jumped into Caversham and right, this is it, I'm in Caversham. You sort of went there for, I don't know, weekends or days or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of spent a few weeks at the end of 2022 season, and then being at Leander, like if they needed a spare stuff, I'd occasionally go, but wasn't really there. I just kind of would get exposure sometimes, then be back at Leander, because it was very much like, well, I mean, you know, you can't get in until like you've done a good trials performance or more than one trials performance. So I was very much at Leander, but occasionally would mix with people from Caversham, and especially being at Leander, like we did a force head crew with Lola and Hannah, and that was so exciting because I'd never really done that before. So
where'd you sit in that boat?
I sat in the 2C in that one.
Okay.
Yeah. But then subbed into the Henley Royal boat when Lola had her back injury for the final. So another opportunity I would never have got if I wasn't at Leander. I think I was in
You got a red box?
Yeah, I got a red box last season. Yeah.
That's crazy. So how soon was Paris on your mind, or were you LA focused?
I think if you'd asked anyone else, I'd have been LA focused. But I think Rich and Ross Hunter, he's been great. I think they both knew that if opportunities came my way, I could make it to Paris. And I think Henley Royal, having subbed into that boat and not mucked it up for that crew, that gave me, and then the double not qualifying, that I was like, there's an opportunity there. Someone or two people have to sit in that boat and qualify it. So why can't that be me? And it was a long shot at that point. And I don't think many people would have considered me, but it was something I just kept in the back of my mind that September, October time.
Well, there's another bit of surgery somewhere in here, isn't there?
The start of September. So actually, I remember driving back to Henley. I'd just had surgery, maybe spent a week at home. I was driving back to Henley, and that was when Worlds were on, and I saw that the double didn't qualify. And I think that's the moment that really stuck with me, because I was like, I couldn't use my arms. But I was like, just that kind of helped me get through the rehab process. I was like, there's a chance.
Just tell us something about your surgery and how long you were out for.
Yeah, so I had compartment syndrome in both my forearms, which had bothered me throughout the 2022-23 season, especially winter, like February trials. It flared up horrifically, and I barely finished the race. And I was able to manage it throughout the summer season, but I went, so the specialist in Newcastle, I went to visit him, and he did some tests, and he was like, well, you've got it and it's not going to get any better, so the only option is surgery. And at this point, it was August 2023. So I sat down with Liz Arnold, physio at Caversham, and she was literally just about to go on maternity leave, and so she wrote out a 10-week plan for me. I had 10 weeks from the date of the surgery to Olympic trials, and she was like, you can absolutely do this. And I think her support gave me a lot of confidence, because it was a bit of it didn't seem like I had long, but actually the rehab process is a lot quicker than like the hip surgery, for example. It's really just you cut into the forearms, so the muscles need more room when they expand. The compartments are too small. Compartments make them bigger, so I really just had to wait for the scars to heal, but spent like a lot of time, 4 or 5 weeks on the bike, and then got back in the boat from there. But yeah, that was, so I had surgery, and then 10 weeks later was Olympic trials.
That's crazy. So obviously you've done enough to get invited to trials through the stuff you've described. So what happened at trials?
So trials, November trials, I think, I can't remember where I placed, but I placed high enough up. And myself and a couple of other development athletes were invited to, they called it Camp Caversham. So the main squad went to a viz for a training camp, and we stayed for a training camp and then had a matrix at the end of that, doubles matrix, and I won that matrix, and then was told I'd be staying at Caversham for the next few weeks until December trials, just as part of the team for now.
Oh, so that's quite a significant move then.
Yeah, it was big change from Leander. Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I mean, it's the place I wanted to be, but it's a very different place from Leander, and I think I'm someone who takes a while to get used to change. I think, yeah, I found it tough initially, like emotionally, and mentally, like being away from a lot of good friends at Leander and stuff, and then especially in Olympic year, like everyone says, Caversham's a really intense place, and it definitely was. So yeah, it was quite tough initially, definitely, and I felt like every day I was kind of like fighting to stay in the team and proving that I was worth being there. So yeah, it was intense.
And how does it work? Because I guess the other women are kind of looking at you and thinking, who's this tall girl coming in and potentially, taking my place?
Yeah, I felt a bit like that at times. I mean, yeah, most people are lovely and welcoming, but at the same time, yeah, it's elite sports, can be quite tough and cutthroat at times.
And how did the Andrew Randell program differ to the sort of stuff you were doing at Leander?
Yeah, it's definitely more intense. I think Leander tries to incorporate a lot of it to try and prepare you. I don't think anything really prepares you enough for it. But yeah, so it was a lot more intense, a lot more meterage than I was used to. But I mean, it produces the results. So I knew if I just did the program, did the technical changes and stuff, then I'd get faster.
Yeah. So you by now are December trials. So I'm thinking, yeah, you could row at Caversham, because there's a lot of that time people couldn't row because it was so rainy and the stream was so fast. But how did the December trials go for you?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I think at that point a lot of people were going down with illness and injury. Wasn't many of us by the end anyway, but I think I did well enough. I did well enough that I secured my spot to stay, and was told, yeah, you're staying kind of as spare for January, a Viz camp, and February's all camp. So yeah, I ticked the boxes, I guess, at that point. Really nothing special.
So when does the move from spare to potential team member happen, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so like I said, yeah, was viewed as spare in January. We went to a Viz start of January, and I hopped in double with Matilda. I'd never ever rowed with her before, and we had some pieces that morning, and they went well. Like, I just remember just trying to push as hard as I could, really. I didn't think they were anything special, and then we saw the timing sheet and saw we'd come top, and I was like, oh, I'm not meant to be that good.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, I mean, that gave me a lot of confidence, and I was like, I don't think that's a fluke. And then we there was a lot of like chopping and changing and trying different combinations on camp, and then we came back and had a bit of a matrix, but there was some illness and injury, so couldn't quite run the matrix through, and then went to Azul, and it was kind of, yeah, selection on that camp in terms of just different pieces, different combinations and stuff, and it kept me and Matilda kept emerging as the fastest every time we did pieces. So I think I'd kind of showed enough at that point that I deserved my spot in the double.
Why? I mean, obviously, because you're the two fastest women in double scull, but I'm thinking, why are you the two fastest women? Is it your particular combination or the qualities that either of you possess, or you were just better than the other women?
I don't know, because I think the whole women's sculling squad is so talented, but something just clicked whenever we got in the double together. I don't know if we have a similar leg drive or something, or Matilda gets the best out of me in the stroke seat, or vice versa. I don't know, but it's just every time we got in, it was just that it just clicked, and we just went well from there.
So when do you start being involved with Tom Patish?
Yeah, so Tom, I think we got selected, and Andrew was like, okay, right, we need to find you a coach, because by this point there was quite a few boats, obviously. And Tom, he now is heavily involved in this beach sprints and development pathway, but he was still kind of basic caption, and he had coached Matilda before. He coached her a bit last year in the single. So I think he was approached, and he said yes. And it meant he was juggling about 4 jobs, it felt like at times. But we were involved with him from, I think, March we got selected. So from that point, it was kind of part-time initially because he had so much going on. But towards qualifiers and then after qualifiers, he kind of gave us a lot more time. But
Okay, so we can talk a little bit more about Tom. I guess obviously Matilda had a lot of publicity for her incredible efforts being a mum as well. How was that for you?
Oh, I think she's incredible, to be honest. Like, to have come back from having Freddie, and done what she did in such a short amount of time was incredible. And I actually found it so helpful for me. It was so refreshing, because I knew when Matilda goes, I know when she goes home, she's not thinking about rowing. She's just thinking about being a mum. And it'd be like, okay, you can actually go switch off now and not think about rowing. Like, Matilda's not doing that. And I guess it just gave a different perspective. And she'd always turn up, like, no matter how much sleep she had, and always be so cheerful. And that definitely on me. So I think Matilda being mum and having Freddie around definitely was a big benefit to us.
Yeah. So you were chosen. You weren't going to go to World Cup 1, but you were going to go to the Europeans. And I remember watching you at the Europeans and thinking, oh, they've got a lot to do. So I'm not sure how fair that was or whatever, but I think you were 7th. You won the B final, I can recall.
Yeah, we didn't have a good performance at Europeans, so we got selected, and then I actually got a rib injury quite quickly. I'd been ill, and I think that hadn't helped. So I had weeks out of the boat, and then when I got back in, I think so that's why we didn't go to World Cup 1 initially, because of the injury. They switched to Europeans. So we didn't have too long before Europeans, but I don't think either of us were rowing. I mean, we weren't rowing well. And I think Europeans was a big wake-up call for us both. I think we both learned so much. Like, it was Matilda's first international race in probably since Tokyo, and it was our senior international. So I think a lot of lessons were learned, and we both left it like absolutely determined that we were going to leave no stone unturned before qualifiers, which was 3 weeks away. And that's kind of the task we set ourselves then, to just completely be a different boat by the time qualifiers came around.
And how much was that the case? He says knowing the answer a little bit beforehand.
To be honest, we were it was so different. I think we took care of everything we did, and I think from the rep at Europeans onwards, we counted how many sessions we had or something, and we just said, okay, we're going to improve by 0.5% every session. And okay, that, but every session we did, we were like, okay, we're going to improve something different. We made some big technical changes. Like Tom was really on it. Andy set us a really tough program in the 10 days we probably had before we tapered, and like psychologically as well. We worked with psychologists just to like really sort everything out. And yeah, I remember probably the last session we did at Caversham, it just felt so different to how it had a couple of weeks earlier. And yeah, that just gave us so much confidence heading into it.
Yeah. How are you with nerves in the Regatta of Death, so called?
Yeah, the Regatta of Death was very nerve-wracking, but like I had some coping strategies. I think we both did. We both get nervous in our own different ways, and I knew that was the most pressure I was ever going to be under. I think knowing that was a good thing, and then I just try and normalize it and just like, okay, it's just rowing, it's just a leg, it's just another second. I very much on the day of our final, I was like, okay, just imagine it's a Tuesday morning at Caversham and you're racing the lightweights. So that's just how I kind of do it. I just try and normalize it as much as I can.
Yeah. Okay, so remembering that race then, because I think the Czechs won and you beat the Germans that presumably were your opposition for the sort of second qualification place. What do you remember about the race?
Oh, I don't remember much, to be honest. I remember the heat, and we were against the Czechs in the heat, and I know we pushed them close, and then I remember thinking, oh God, like we're not going to do it. And then seeing how the Germans did, and actually you can't compare times, really different conditions maybe, but I was like, okay, the Germans did a slower time than us, and that gave us a lot of confidence. And then having the rep the next day, that actually worked in our benefit because we were able to just relax a bit more, and that was probably the best we'd rowed at that point. So I just remember going into the final thinking we can definitely beat the Germans. And I think I was just trying to think, well, they're going to be as scared of you as you are of them, like coming kind of thing. So yeah, I remember the last 500 meters and I could see the Germans like behind us, and I was like, just hold on, you've got 500 meters, you're fine. Yeah, I think that's the only bit I can remember, just that last bit and crossing the line, and I knew we'd done it.
Yeah. And was anyone around, like family or friends, or
Yeah, my parents came out to watch me, and they've never really come out to watch a competition before. So that was really, really special.
Yeah.
So
how much did you have to drink that night?
I actually don't think we had anything. We had to get straight on the plane back.
Oh, you were kidding?
Yeah, no, we didn't stay out there. We had a plane back that night, and then obviously Matilda had Freddie with her, so she was So yeah, I don't know what time I got home, but I couldn't sleep, but that wasn't because of alcohol. I just
You're so excited.
Yeah.
So when you came back down to earth, I mean, clearly, you know, that you've obviously got more time now to prepare for the Paris Olympics. When did you start, if at all, deciding, you know, what your aim was for those games?
Yeah, I think we sat down a few days after qualifiers, with Tom, and kind of set out a plan and what we wanted to do in Paris. And both of us said at that point we want to make the A final. Like I think we experienced at Europeans how tough it is to be on the British team and not do well. So we wanted to give ourselves a shot. So making the A final, that was the goal. And that's what I then had in my mind. I think I don't know how many weeks we had, probably like 6 or 8 weeks after that point. Thinking about.
I guess the speed you went at Lucerne would not have maybe it might have got you into the A final, but at the back of the A final. So what the hell happened between Lucerne and Paris?
I still don't know. I think we just had more time together. We honestly only had 10 good days together before before qualifiers, sorry. Like I'd been in and out of the boat so much of injury that we only really had that 10-day block. So then to have a 6 or 8 week block was so different. And we kind of just went in with the same mentality. We were never settling just to go to the Olympics to be Olympians. We wanted to perform as best we could. And Matilda had experienced in Tokyo, like the disappointment and stuff. And I so much set on just not going just for the experience. So we just kind of took that same mentality that we had just before qualifiers in terms of taking care of everything. And I think so World Cup 2 was a bit after qualifiers, so we had an extra week of training before everyone else came back. Hit the ground running, really. We did Andrew's program, which works, and took care of everything else psychologically, recovery wise. And then crazy, same again. We just every single session we did, we made the most of it. And yeah, I can't really describe like how good a partnership it is. Like we just really like got on with each other and never left the water. There'd be sessions that weren't good, like don't get me wrong, not every, but like we never ever left the water upset or angry. Like we always left the water with smiles on our faces, no matter how bad the session had gone. So yeah, I guess that played a huge.
What was the biggest technical change you made during that time?
I think definitely the last bit into the front end, so going into the catch. We definitely before qualifiers would just rush that last few inches, and the stern would dip and stuff, and we've never got that perfect, but we worked a lot with Darren as well as Tom and the lightweights, and that was a big focus of Darren's, like making sure we didn't rush that final few inches, because I had a tendency to just try and get in, and then Matilda would like jerk her head. So I think just moving with the stern a bit better, that was probably our biggest one.
Okay, so you mentioned the lightweights already. How did your speeds compare? Because you obviously did a lot of work together.
So it's quite hard to compare because a lot of our pieces we do would be rate capped. So the lower rates we'd beat them up to a point, and then on camp they were managing their weight, so their training load was different, so they'd beat us on some higher rate pieces. But I don't think it was ever like a fair comparison, because we were kind of doing different training loads, but they were faster than us at higher rate at that point. And then when we came back, we had speed order, and I think that's the first time we showed that we could really go with them, and we ended up beating them, but we knew if we were around where the lightweights were, we could make the A final. So they were always the benchmark, and I mean, technical double in the world is incredible, because that, like, to me that's perfection, and to us we were just always looking at them like, how can they do some of those drills? So to constantly be chasing that standard was really, really helpful.
So how did you handle the whole excitement of the Olympics, like the kit day and all that kind of stuff, and going out to Paris on the Eurostar and that? How was all that handled?
I think it was something I thought about a lot, because obviously it's been a dream for so long. I don't know, I tried to normalize it in a way, again, in my own funny way, but the kit day and the announcement day was really, really cool. But I think actually it helps having Matilda because she's someone who's not dreamed of going to the Olympics since she was 6 like me, and she's very oh, it's just kit, it's just bits. Whereas I'd like, even when I was at the Olympics, I'd be like, oh my god, it's Tom Daley. She'd be like, oh my gosh. And then that kind of helped me like calm down a little bit. But yeah, I think like by the time it came around, I think it was helpful spending a month in Italy because we were just completely in our own bubble.
Yeah.
Kind of away from the excitement and the noise. And then by the time we started to go, Euro started to go to Paris, I think we were ready and very much like ready to like embrace it. And it helped going out so much earlier than our event. I think we got there about a week before, 6 days before. It kind of didn't hit us properly. Like the lake, I think we had the day it opened, so all the branding and stuff was still being put up. I feel like the Olympics just yet, and then we kind of got used to it as like the days rolled on, more stuff would go up, and that was helpful. It wasn't just hitting us straight on. And then to not be in the village was really helpful as well, because it felt like we stayed in the Paxton near the course. It felt like again we were in our own bubble. We knew what was going on, but we weren't surrounded by all the hype and stuff in the village. So I think just those things really helped keep it a bit more normal in a way.
Yeah. Your first heat, I mean, you didn't know New Zealand were going to win the gold medal, and neither did they. But what do you remember about that?
Yeah. I remember sitting on the start line and just being like, okay, this is where you're meant to be. Like, this is where you've dreamed of being so long. So like, why, like, don't be nervous kind of thing. And we'd had so much confidence from like the last 2K we'd done. So yeah, I kind of knew let's just see what we can do. That was kind of the attitude. And I mean, I don't think I knew the New Zealanders were in our heat, but at that point I was like, okay, it's the Americans we need to beat. Like they were wearing
silver medalists from the year before.
Yeah, so, and I think they'd won World Cup too, so they were the ones we were like, okay, they're gonna go out and we'll just try and stick with them. And then to get ahead of everyone off the start, like we didn't think our start was that good. To then get ahead of everyone and be ahead from, I don't even know, 500 or so in. I'm leading, and it's like my first Olympic race, so it was just out trying to like stay calm. And I think I remember seeing the New Zealanders vaguely, but I just kind of went off Matilda's calls. And I think looking back, like we definitely should have rode the second half better. I think we were kind of a bit overwhelmed by what was going on, to be honest. And we didn't sprint. We didn't call a sprint. Matilda didn't call a sprint or anything. And maybe that's something that we should have done. But I think at that point it was very much like, okay, let's just get through this now, take stock.
So you're in the semi, and clearly the focus said, you're there to make the A final, and I guess you're not thinking of anything else outside of that, or are you?
Well, so our last session at Caversham, the 2K, we finished it, and I knew it had gone really well. But Matilda, as we were getting out the boat, she was like, "We're going for a medal," and I was like. So I think she'd had different intentions all along, but hadn't told me. And I was just kind of, I mean, I'm the newbie in the team kind of thing. I was like, I'll just work as hard as I possibly can. And yeah, the A final was on my mind. And then when she said that, I was like, okay, we'll do that then. So then when the draw for the semi came out, it was everyone I thought would be in the A final. That was just how the draw went.
You had Romania, didn't you? And was it Norway? Were they there too?
World Cups this year, US again. So I was like, maybe they a bad race in the heat. China and Australia, who again had some great World Cups.
Yeah.
So as it came out, and I was like, okay, this just keeps getting worse. But I knew, I was like, well, if we can get through this, we can medal. So that was kind of the attitude. So I think the semi was the race I was most nervous for, because I knew if we got through, if we raced it to the best of our ability, and if we got through, I knew that we could medal. But it just, that race, first of all.
How did you deal with those nerves?
Yeah, again, I was just kind of like, I tried to think back to qualifiers, and I was like, that was the most pressurized situation you've been in. Okay, this is a bit more, but you've got that to fall back on, and look how well that's gone. Like, I always chat to one of my best friends the night before, and she kind of reminded me the same. She was like, you've never ever raced badly under pressure.
Yeah.
And again, I just kind of tried to think, well, this is where I've dreamed of being for so long. So like, this is kind of the most, what you can do.
And you're leading the Olympic champions and world champions.
Yeah.
A lot of the race.
Yeah. So I remember talking about this afterwards, and I was like, I then rewatched it, and I had no idea. I really don't know. I don't know, maybe my peripheral vision's not great. I thought they'd come up through us at 500 to go. I didn't realize it was literally in the last few strokes. But I don't know. I probably should have had more confidence and stuff. But I was just like, okay, the Romanians, they'll go, like, they'll win the race. Let's just for as long as we can. And yeah, I kind of knew Norway and Australia were probably going to come back at us in the last bit, but I knew if we just kept our heads in the boat, we could do it.
Yeah. So you're in the final, and you've obviously said we didn't go out there just to be part of the team, and you've already talked about being part of the British team that didn't perform as well as maybe expectations were in the Europeans. So what's your sort of route into the final like then, from qualifying the semis to getting to the start?
I think the semi gave us a lot of confidence, but it also took a lot out of us physically. So the next day it was just about recovering and stuff. And I think the focus was, we'd done 1750 really well. We knew our last 250 isn't great, and so that was kind of the focus going to the final. And I woke up that morning and I didn't feel great, to be honest.
Really?
Felt like I was going down or something. I was like, oh great. No. Yeah. And Matilda, she didn't tell me until after the final, she'd actually really badly hurt her rib in the semi.
Oh God.
Yeah, on painkillers for that. So neither of us were in good shape, but we didn't tell each other.
Oh bloody hell.
And yeah, the day of the final, I think there was a storm that morning. So the day just wasn't going great. We got down to the course later as a result of the storm, couldn't go in the water. And then so our pre-paddle was a bit delayed. So yeah, the day wasn't going perfectly, but I think we're always more nervous before we get in the boat. And then as soon as we're in the boat, we're like, okay, like, it's going to be fine. Like, this is where we're most confident. And yeah, I think, we weren't in the best possible shape we could have been on, but I think we always knew the bronze was there for the taking, and that was what we were going for. So we'd just keep racing as hard as we could, as we had done all week, and just keep see what happened. So yeah, that was always, we just did what we.
You were quick out. I mean, not the first few strokes, but I mean, you were leading through the 500, so you had the camera right on you from 500 to 750.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's there. Looking at you in the stroke seat, sculling really, really long and really effective. I mean, how good a row was the final relative to other stuff you've done?
I think if you ask Tom, he'll say like it was one of our best. I think both of us knew it wasn't. The semi was always the one I think I'll look back on, and that's like the one I'm most proud of, because that felt fine. I think the final wasn't our best row, but ultimately, like, we didn't have that in us on the day. And
it's still even our best row. I don't know. It wasn't, but it got us.
So before I ask you about reactions to winning the bronze, so I'm thinking, so does she think and Matilda think they could have maybe won silver or done even better?
I don't think so. I think
I
very much think like that was the result we were maybe destined to get, and I think the New Zealanders probably raced the best they've ever done that day, and the Romanians, they're an incredible crew. I think our last 500, 250 could have been better, but that I've been suffering like with a wrist injury kind of all season. Like I've been having to manage that, and that flared up that day as well. So our bodies ultimately weren't we weren't in gold medal shape that day, and we kind of said beforehand as well, like we're going for a med, like if we go for gold, I don't know, it's tricky. We didn't want to go for gold and miss out on a medal completely. So it was kind of that.
Fair enough.
I don't know, like maybe, I don't know if we do it differently. We raced our hearts out, like we went as hard as we possibly could, and that just wasn't enough for silver or gold that day. I honestly don't think we could have done any better, and that was the result we got. I remember crossing the line thinking we'd come fourth, to be honest. So I'll take bronze and an Olympic bronze. Especially.
But you felt nothing as you crossed the line.
No, I honestly, I think that's just the part of my brain that has imposter syndrome still and doesn't think I'm good enough. I thought I'd let us down. I thought my wrist let us down, and I was like, oh, the Dutch have caught us, we come fourth. And Matilda was like, we got bronze, and I was like, no, have we? To actually see it come up on the screen to confirm it, I think I just needed to see it in writing. And then like when I saw the number 3 next to us, I was just like, that's incredible. Like to have gone on the journey we went on together and to get a bronze medal is
So are you just thinking then, or are you doing anything? Are you doing anything physical, like putting your hands in the air or turning around to Matilda? What are you doing?
I think I was just like bent over, breathing heavily.
Okay, fair enough.
And then I think once we caught our breath, it was just hugs and stuff. But probably our initial celebrations were probably just absolute exhaustion gone through.
So then there's the media circus, the mix zone. Was that the first proper sort of interview you'd done?
I guess I hadn't really had anything before this season, and qualifiers we had a little bit, but the Olympics is a completely different world, isn't it? So that was very surreal.
I didn't hear your interview. How good was it?
I can't remember. I think it was okay. Catherine Granger's like an absolute hero of mine, so I think I was with Catherine talking to me than anything else.
Talk me through the medal ceremony memories.
Well, it's just insane. As soon as you get off the water, it's just you go to the medal pontoon and you go to media, and then it's like, okay, 5 minutes to get into your podium kit, and you're still sweaty and stinky, and you're putting on this tracksuit and stuff in the boiling heat, and then they're like 2 minutes. It was just a complete rush. And then when we walked out, it was just so special to have it in Paris. Like I could see so many of my friends and family in the stand. I could see Freddie and stuff. So that was just absolutely surreal.
And when did the family hugs and all that and friends stuff, when did that happen?
I think we saw them briefly as we got off the pontoon. I think they'd somehow made it down to the front of the stands.
Oh, super.
So I saw a lot of my friends who I like started rowing with, and then my family and stuff. Could just about reach them for hugs and stuff, and I think that's started as well. And then afterwards as well with our medals, and then later on in the mix zone. It was just really, really special.
I guess they're unforgettable memories for all your friends and for your close personal family as well as for you.
I think it was really, really special, and like definitely my family, like my parents have sacrificed a lot, and for all the sports I've done, always like given me time and kept supporting me throughout it all. So that was really, really special.
Yeah. So I guess your dad and mum have been back to school. Have they been saying, you know, our daughter's Olympic bronze medalist and all that sort of stuff?
I think I think a lot of people have been very excited and are finding it very cool that they somehow know an Olympian. So yeah, I think mum and dad have enjoyed that a lot. The newfound celebrity status.
Yeah. I mean, my dad used to wear, I think when we won a bronze medal, he used to wear my tracksuit into school because he was a PE teacher.
Oh, really?
Have you given your dad any kit to wear?
I gave him a few hats and stuff, and all my kit's a bit big for my mum, but she's got a few. So yeah, they've all claimed, my brother and sister as well, have all claimed some kit.
Yeah. So I know. Well, let's start as if we mean to go on. So you said about LA 28. So what are your intentions regarding that?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely continue. I think Paris was just incredible, and like it just makes all the years of hard work worth it. And I knew when I crossed that finish line I wasn't done, and I would like to upgrade that medal. So be going for another Olympiad for sure.
Yeah, and you probably be in front of 1500 at LA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe that'll work to our strengths.
Yeah. So what about retention? Who's committed to coming back that you know about, or you know, without revealing anything you shouldn't do?
Yeah, I think more people will come back than expected. I think Paris, I think it was just so fun and so exciting that a lot more people, and obviously the results and stuff, a lot more people will come back. I think maybe there'll be more people taking time away to have babies and stuff. I think Matilda's shown a lot of people that is possible. So I think there'll be a few of them. I know a few people that are coming back, and I think it's such an exciting group that I think there'll be more excitement on the way.
And what's the most fun you had in Paris?
There was, in that second week, a lot of parties. The Champions Parade.
How much did you drink then?
Oh gosh.
Did you drink? You must have drunk some stuff.
Yeah, I drank a lot all week. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Champagne?
Yeah, I think we all had a lot of the champagne. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of free drinks, a lot of free entry. The Champions Parade in front of the Eiffel Tower, that was so fun. Was it? That was like the stuff dreams are made of, really. So yeah, it was just such a good week.
Who gave the best party?
Oh, Oakley House was really good.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Oakley House was good, and then we went to the Irish House, and that was just an absolute wild place.
Yeah. So so when when have your feet started to touch the ground?
I definitely feel like since I've been home it kind of feels normal. I think I've had to come down now, and it all honestly just feels like a dream. Like talking about it, it doesn't seems so long ago. It doesn't feel like a month ago. And like I was back in Henley last week, just training at Leander, like just doing a session here or there, and I just felt like I was 12 months ago. And then I kind of remember what's happened, and it's all. I think I'm still getting my head around it. Whirlwind. It feels normal, but at the same time, don't think I've quite acknowledged what's happened.
No, and I'm guessing your medals at your mum and dad's.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think my parents took permanent possession of my medals when I got back.
I think that's sensible.
Yeah, Well, I mean, it's an incredible story. I still feel, I mean, you two obviously must be a sensational combination, and with Tom as a coach, you know, an incredible partnership to take you through to winning a bronze medal. And
we're quite a team.
yeah, I understand a bit more, but I still think it's just fantastic that you did what you did.
Yeah, I think that's still very much what I'm doing, trying to process it all still.
Yeah.
Been a crazy 12 months.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll talk to you again in another couple of years and see where you are.
Second then.
Hopefully no more hospital visits.
Yeah, I hope I've got all my injuries out of the way, but
yeah, there was this show called The Bionic Woman about, you know, a woman who had all kinds of, you know, metal things and rebuilt, and she was a superwoman. I was thinking, this woman is like, they've rebuilt her and she's a superwoman.
Yeah.
Magic. Okay, Becky, we'll end the live part of this interview there. Thank you so much. You've absolutely been amazing. And thank you, James, for pointing that out.
Thanks.
Bye for now, everybody.